for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to another video with me here today. I am here at the White Waters. This is how this place is called, and I really wanted to be and sit with the Mother, with Gaia, with the planet Earth at this time, and I wanted to talk to you about something very important that's happening. Well, we all know what is happening on the so-called surface, and there's things they're meant to remain only at the surface level because, as you know, the public, the collective is not ready for certain things. There's things happening on different levels or layers of this experience, and with this push, we've talked about this reset of the Earth and the planetary reset points. It's like Earth is making new associations. She's pulling in new strands of information that are assisting her in making the shift. And as you know, this translates directly into our collective experience, what the humans are experiencing, and not just humans, humanity, but all the other life forms. You know, there's not just humans here. So I wanted to talk about certain things that are a part of this, that's happening at this time specifically, because they're very important. And this is a call to those of us here, and we're going to talk about this today. But I want to start first by explaining again a little bit of the bigger perspective, or the bigger picture of this, what actually is behind this. You know, I was talking to you a lot about how there's different beings now who hold aspects of informational kind of distribution that's coming out at this time, and there's a lot of people just being informed by other people. There's very few individuals still who are directly informed by the creative force of life, directly through the life force of spirit, by their galactic teams, by their light families, and we're going to talk about this today. So there's this deeper push, that's this unknown territory or terrain that we're going through, and there are certain aspects of what's playing out at the global field of what we experience as a society, as a global population, that are being they're being revealed, and some of them very much quickly all at once. That's why, you know, there's a level of preparedness that needs to be here at this time, and not everyone is prepared in that way. But there's also simultaneously, right, aspects that are not meant to be seen at the public, with the public eye, or, you know, at the public arena. So what I want to talk about here today as the introduction to the topic is that's when the Earth is making this transition, right? Earth is requiring a certain point of, it's almost like the point of equanimity, which is a point of resonance that requires a collective coherence. And as you know, we won't get that from all the people on the planet, but those people who are specifically here at this time for this purpose, and we're feeling it in our hearts. It's like a heart call. So those of you who are feeling this inner drive, it's like the flame. We call this flame the spark of God, or a creator, a divine trinity flame of life. And this flame is being inspired now. It's starting to burn. It's starting to ignite something. A lot of us, I've been talking about this before, have been preparing for this for years, even eons of time, truly. You know, been doing this long enough that we know what's happening, right? But there are levels that we don't know what's happening, and that's for a reason as well, because I've talked about this just recently on Patreon, how it's the feminine now that's birthing this new age, because the feminine principle of life and creation is the birthing principle. So we all know that the birth is heavy and it's difficult, and it has to it's discoagulate certain elements and throwing them out that have been not just nuances or annoyances, but some of them pretty much keeping the status quo, or keeping the darkness, we always say, keep the darkness at bay, but that's not really helpful, right? So this energy, when this collective shift started to occur, it's synonymously all at once, these aspects started coming out. That's why, when I read sometimes I'm guided to see how the populace experience this. So I watch certain videos and then I see comments underneath, and I'm just more about the comments than the content, because I'm trying to see how people are experiencing this, you know, and people are still mostly at the informational level, which is more like fourth density experience, right? You know, the mind starts opening to the flow of new streaming information, something that on the 3D level is just this status quo, right? And it's just this density, and it's like there's never this breakthrough. And this non-breakthrough energy has been present here for so long. It's like there was this constant battle to keep the status quo, to keep it as it is, to maintain the conditions, and to even, of course, worsen them, you know, that there would be even more enslavement and all of that. So when this breakthrough actually occurred, and this occurred from the illumined light perspective through the seed of life that was resurrecting through the Earth's new template. So Earth herself started opening up to new possibilities. But at the same time, Earth is not just on her own, right, traveling into this new dimensional experience, but she holds life on it, right? And all of these life forms are a part of this experience. So what this did is like it created a ripple effect, and it was like this instant, almost like attunement to what multidimensionality is. And that's why I want to see people thinking linearly, like, no, this is the cause for this. No, it's all about this virus. No, it's actually about 5G. No, it's about this slave trafficking, you know, what's coming out now with, we're going to talk about this today specifically, you know, what's been done to the children and the underground caves and tunnels and the trafficking and slavery, you know, the human life trafficking, and it was like horror, you know. Horror movie doesn't show things like the way they truly are, but what's being shown to me specifically, it's like this is coming out like all at once, and it's a lot to handle. That's why there's this intensity. So this shift is not like this or that, because we're no longer in a linear reality. It is all of it at once. So there's like layers upon layers, and even sometimes people who are at the forefront doing these things, you know, we talk about this resistance, or, you know, I don't know their names. Is it the white hats or something? You know, people who are working behind the scenes, and there's specific institutions that have been gathering together to end this certain system, and the ruling classes that have been doing very, very dark things, right? And agendas. And it's even sometimes these people don't always know where these layers are coming from and how they're guided in a certain way. And I've talked to you before that if the humanity doesn't choose certain aspects, that like it's collectively in a way put into this new template, right? The Earth will make these transitions. So a lot of these impulses for this new movements are coming from Earth herself, because as you know, her core shifting, which, you know, it did a lot of movement, especially in the recent few years since 2012. There was a lot of earthquakes and tsunamis and volcano eruptions, and these all kind of created a movement that it's like a shake-up from that status quo. But what's happening now is that this which was building up from underground, you know, from deep below, from underneath, suddenly erupted. And going now to this situation, which is, you know, a lot of people are talking about this, that what's behind the scenes and behind the scenes and behind the scenes is now this, everyone going on this pause mode, so that there could be this underground release of these children who were in these underground tunnels, as you well know, and kept for these very dark intentional purposes. You can do your own research. I don't want to go too much into it again, because everyone can do their own research. It's all out there, and I'm not going to do hours of this, which is already covered online. So you can all research that. So it's been like happening, and it's almost like, you know, I was with this essence now for a long time, and even this whole winter my light team has been doing a lot through me. And when I say through me, which means it was just a channel for this, and a lot of times I just feel the feelings, you know, and I don't know what's happening, because I'm not meant to know, because if I did know, you know, it would keep the human aspect too involved. So that's usually why I'm not told. It's just the essence work. Okay, that's for me the majority of the work that my oversoul light team is doing. So they were showing me how at the essence level, a lot of this was already done, was achieved, it was conquered. So now it's like we just have to watch it play out on the earth. And I'm going to talk about at the end, how can we most participate with what's happening. I was with this essence now for about a few weeks. I didn't talk about it, but a lot of people knew. And as you know, this is not informational. This is not something that we can go and serve and assist like mentally. So today I want to focus more on what we as the community of beings who are able to hold this purest life force, what we can do, and I'll explain why. So the reason why for so long in these years of my sharing and way showing, pioneering and talking about life force, because this is our path. This is the path of everyone who is now ready to work with the aspect of physical ascension and learn what it truly means to be blessed by the light of Holy Spirit, which truly at the highest levels of the operational dynamics, that's the leading force of life. It generates currents of life force. And then with me, the way I work with my light team is they generate these light force currents, and I have to be the one to receive them. And therefore, this work requires both the one who's on earth, the embodier, and those doing the work, holding the light as a team. So I've been talking about this for years, how important this life force work will be and become in times to come. And this is now, it has begun. So my work will shift very drastically from teaching these things because I've done the work. This is all out there. Anyone can get acquainted with it, and anyone can start doing the actual work that's needed and will become very much necessary in times to come. We are just at the beginning, everyone. Everyone is now, I'm seeing, hoping for certain people and presidents and this operational institution and those beings who are just like, it's just talked about, that they're going to do the work, but it doesn't end there. Like imagine they represent one layer. We don't know all the layers, some of it could also be just another version of the false agenda. We don't know. But what we have to do as those who are focused on the Christ essence work, we are needing to work with these pure light quotient essences that are being and wanting to be birthed through us to assist the planet as she's going through the transition. So she can do, like most of the work will be done with the connection with the earth. So this is not just us thinking and praying for the good of all and all to be liberated. But this is us actually doing this life force work with the planet, because when you do this work in this way, you increase the potency. Like I can't even imagine the amount. It's like very much increased. So the reason why I was talking about this for so many years is because what my spirit team shows me is that there is a huge difference between people who are still very much afraid, and when they go into prayer, they pray out of fear, right? So recently in my group on Patreon, I recorded this activation and also put it in my download section as well for everyone to receive if they want to do the work. But it's basically focused on the prayer that is created from this deeply benevolent pure state. I see like a lot of people, they receive a certain information and they start worrying about it, and then they go into prayer. That kind of prayer, well, it's still a prayer, but it's not as intensely focused. It doesn't travel with the purity of concentrated coherence of your thought, which can achieve, like, you don't even know, because we don't see these currents traveling. We have, eyes of vision that can, just show a certain spectrum of light. But there is this amount of coherence that can be achieved doing this work this way. So in that activation, we entered the circle of light with the light beings, and we're holding that space as these light currents are just being activated and moved and pushed through us. And there's also connection with the planet. So you have to know that it's not about the numbers, I keep saying that, but it's about the amount of people who first need to feel this call, this connection now in their sacred call, the call of the heart. And it's almost like the heart is throbbing with this passionate purpose now at this time. And it's like, yes, this is what I was waiting for. And this is how you know that you are one of those people, you're one of these individuals, because we were all born on this planet for different reasons, and they're not all the same, So what I was shown is that there can be this specific amount of these currents, like life force currents, first generated and distributed around the planet, and then locked in with the new planetary light grid. And it's going to achieve like so much. We don't even know. That's why they wanted me to do this video, even though I'm tired and I'm not sleeping a lot. I'm just recording because I have so much work. I do this planetary work with the Essence. I do my Patreon work. I do the work on YouTube. Plus I do my inner work now because my body is going through a very difficult transition as well and healing. So it's like, oh, I don't even sleep much, but still, you know, I'm being called and I'm doing my best to show up and share what I'm shown, because this is so important. This is the time of our lives, you know. This is what so many of us have been waiting for. We weren't waiting in the passive sense, but it's been going on. Okay, so this is something we need to know, and therefore I'll also do meditation today. I will invite in the Elohim Light family to bring us some of their inspiration, and I'll share that in a separate video. But this is something that I wanted to show me. It's like this circle of this potency can do a tremendous amount, because you know there's all this information coming out now, and when you read or attune to it, you will still feel an amount of oh, what if this happens, right? Especially if you read things like 5G. You know, it's gonna cause us all to, you know, weaken our immunity to amount. We all get sick and terribly, you know, we all get cancer, things like that. And the first aspect is there's a lot of agenda pushed for us to fear that, and we're putting light energy there when we start thinking about that, like even allowing it to be a possibility at such a large scale, because there's now in this experimental stage and they're doing these things at certain regions. And so when we go and enter into the state, oh, what if? It's already a what if. We have to learn, and this is something you can only learn by becoming a master of life force. You have to learn to create the kind of light dynamics and a reality that will be only created through the organic force of life. That's the first part. And it's like in this way you surpass the what if in this reality, and you will amplify, because this is now it's like a competition of which reality will win over, right? Which it's a battle for life force, basically, for soul essence, and behind it it's this pure life force from spirit. And so it's this life force that creates. That's what people don't know. People think that thoughts create. Well, thoughts initiate the process, and they themselves do not build life. Life organically is created through streams of life force. And I know because of I come from there, you know, we do this work, and I've channeled all this through my cosmic drawings that I really hope to publish one day, but now it's not the time. As you see, we're in a different stage. And it's so life is created in this way, and we know, when we know the root of creation, there's no other way but create in this way. And it's not like, as a human, I'm so mighty, I'm going to do this, but it's basically just about becoming the channel. All you have to do is become aware of how life functions and tracing this light to its source, which is this pure life force, and then being open to become such a pure receptive channel for that, and then creating a network of light through this connectivity we've talked about, the interconnection between all of us. And so we're fusing this reality with this highest potentiality. I've explained in one of my recent videos also how this immaculate shield or sheath of protection works, and it's different than like lesser energetic types of shielding. It's so pure because it originates from the most immaculate design of life. Therefore, in a way, it's impenetrable, right? So it's very much similar. My aim now, my mission is to first bring this truth out, to share it, to distribute it in a way that people can receive it here online, right? We can connect and receive. But then it's not just okay about receiving the information, then what? Doing nothing, right? It is already a time to act. So I first started doing these meditations, and I shared one very simple one on Patreon, about how to generate these currents of life force. There's many ways how you can attune to this, but first comes your intent, right? The intent is the purity of your thought. Your thought has to have an amount of purity that will become almost like impenetrable by other thoughts that want to pierce it through and penetrate it and say, no, but we are vying for this reality. We want this reality. So in this realm now, it is imperfect, as we all know. We're all needing to master this, you know, inner resourcefulness and this connection that's unwavering. You have to achieve the kind of amount of purity of thought that's unwavering. So because there's always something else, like, what about this information? What about this? What about that? It's like always something vying for where we actually put our focus. And the moment you shift the focus, you're like taking everything with that. So those of you who are really, really interested, because it's not just like a matter of interest, like, oh yeah, I want to do that for me because I want to be such a badass, but collectively feeling this urge now, this driving passion, because this is the time, and knowing that the age, the alignment has come, and you have been preparing for this, and you're now at this threshold and feeling yourself to be a part of this driving force that's really here to usher a new light grid, like once and for all. Because the moment you start plugging into what's their plan and their agendas and this and that, like, we're all feeding it. Even the most intentional light beings, light workers, as earth humans, we're still vulnerable to a certain extent, right? So they were showing me how much I need to like keep like swaying away these like aspects, like no, this is not important. No, this is not like at highest order of demand at this time. So any kind of work of devotion means you first have to know what you're devoting yourselves to. You can't just be like susceptible and naive in a way, like, yeah, this is cool, I'll devote to this just because it sounds beautiful and spiritual. And, you know, even meditations now, you know, or meditation groups and online groups, there's a reason why I don't do that, because, you know, there's a lot of people at different levels who might join in and bring a kind of like different component. That's why my intent is to create like a ripple effect and join in and invite in a group of beings who would be deeply connected with their lineage, like their star lineage, their light family team that can stream through them. Because if you have an amount like of this group, like it can create an amount of that kind of light quotient and create a field. You can do anything. That's the thing. That's our strength. Remember in a previous video I've talked about, it's not about the numbers. It's about the light quotient essence and the threshold of that being reached. So in any kind of thing, right, we first need to know what we're devoting to. The second thing is we really need to work and focus on this, what I've talked about. This Christ essence is bigger than just our human intent. So we need to allow in a much bigger dynamics and invite it in and allow it to work through us, because through us it can travel, it can move across the planet, it can heal people and victims of these terrible, horrific acts that were, you know, placed upon them, that were forced upon them. And it's like just, it can create really so much. That's how we do. Our light family team works through the essence level first. And then when I talk about the messages, this is just like spreading it out, but it's not like the basics of how we work. The work is always first done at like from spirit to matter. There is a certain transference of this quotient, right? So when we talk about things like the 5G and such, another aspect to this is we're going to need to develop a kind of vibrational efficiency that can surpass that. Like our vibration will need to surpass like the vibrational intrusion, like in case, right? I'm not saying, well, this will be a horrific reality, right? But still, in any case, right, you always need to be prepared. You know that quote, you need to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. It's always like this. That's a part of the spiritual training. And so those of you who really are here to achieve, not like for yourself, to over-grandize yourself, but to achieve this greatness for the gift of all, to give the gift of life, right, and to spread it here around the world, because this is the time, and you know it, and you feel it so deep in your heart. You feel the call. I've been doing this work for years, and it never has felt as more important than now, but it's shifting to a different degree and extent of this work. It's not going to be that informational. It's going to be like inviting in the people who are willing to do the work. This is no longer, yeah, do this, do that, yeah, this is like this is how it is for volunteer souls. You know, that's been done. It's there. For me, it's not important anymore. Like whoever will come across that, if they're at that level, they're going to find that, and it will find them. That's just how life force works. It always finds and leads to the source of truth. It's like naturally imbued with the essence of truth, and truth always knows its source. So it's like very natural, very organic process. So imagine us in the sphere. And instead of waiting like passively, you know, anyone can do so much. You can do so much with little pieces of magic. Like there's little blessings we don't even know we can do. You know, and when I was with this essence And what's happening now with these children, and I was researching these darkest topics like extensively for a while now, going even deeper because my energy needed to be there. So it's how they usually guide me. They guide me to be with something, so just that my energy goes there. That's like the thoughts align with that, so that they can bring a ripple effect of what's behind the thought itself through it. Just the research doesn't do anything, you know. I told you before, there's people who are passing on information and they were informed by other people and informers, and it just goes way back and you don't know the original source behind that, you know. And then there's people also who are waiting just for their Jesus to return, and, you know, in a certain form or way, I don't know, etherically, astrally, physically, you know, they all have probably their own ways of seeing this reality, and that's okay. There's people who are just waiting and praying and fearing the worst to come and pray out of that state. You know, at least they pray, but still, it's not what we are here to do. And I've been talking about this for so long, like how the mission of Christ is so different, because it has to bypass all of this. It has to bypass all of this drama and involvement. And it has to come to this, like, I know it's difficult to in a way imagine ourselves to be so neutral at this time, which feels like it's so bombarded with not just negativity, but the darkest of the darkness, that it's coming to the surface. It needs to, it's time. But at the same time, there's also the lightest of the light. Like, both of these are now equal match. It's just now how we will work with this highest spectrum of light. And there's some of you who are, you've made an agreement to be part of this, perhaps for the first time, but you really wanted this experience, so that's why there's this poll now, because you wanted to learn how to truly become a spiritual badass, but not just for yourself, but to be a part of the something bigger. And that's how volunteer souls are created. Like, once you experience it for the first time, you will join this amazing team of light that is benevolently always of service to life in different unique ways, but it is what it is, and it's a common purpose, right? It's what connects together. So going again back to this Earth's process, Earth also synonymously needed to achieve enough of unification within the collective, and this is why people now are all in their places and homes and apartments, and, you know, going like, oh, what am I supposed to do with myself? I'm in this quarantine zone, you know. And it's like, a part of what I was receiving today is that this unification point does not just mean we all need to be at a same place experiencing the same thing, which is not the same, but it's like a collective experience. None of the people are excluded from this, right? We're still uniquely in it, but we're not excluded from what's happening. At the same time, again, remember, there's levels, there's layers. So there's one layer that was showing itself to me today as I was walking, and I'm receiving like downloads all the time. And I was seeing this, you know, how a lot of the people I was seeing, they were complaining how bored they are and they don't know what to do with themselves. And now, let's go back to these children, right? Under the ground, under the caves, being trafficked, sex slavery, pedophilia, cannibalism, adrenochrome, right? The drug that is induced through creating fear and torture and all of this. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine being in that space of captivity and not knowing anything else, not knowing love at all, maybe never seeing the light of day. Imagine that. Now, compare that with, oh, I'm in a house arrest. Okay, I'm not comparing the two like, oh, you know, we should all feel how this feels. But what I'm saying here is I was shown that if enough people could feel how it is to be in this like, oh, I don't know, I can't do much but this, right? I can't travel the world freely or see my friends, go out for a drink, go out and party, do this and do that. It's like if enough people could just hold a space and feel certain feelings of frustration, even if it's like at a milder extent. Like, we don't shift the energy with thoughts. Thoughts align us, right? Thoughts are the first spark of that intent. But we shift through feeling. We're feeling beings. That's what the heart, for me, it's still like the most important organ, right? And they were just teaching me today, because I do these light body sessions every day now, because I'm tuning to a different dynamics of spiritual training. I'm going to share that in Patreon in my ascending transmissions that I do there, and how to literally create an expansion of the toroidal field just around the heart, and then the heart starts to inform the brain, which is like we don't think of it in this way more often. So now going back to that field of unity, like things needing to unify, this is what's happening now. And if enough like quotient of light could be achieved through that feeling sensation, like we liberate aspects of life that are very dormant, and hence, like an archetype, right, coming out of the ground, out of the caves, being liberated. And literally yesterday, I wanted to do my own process, but somehow, for some reason, when I was doing my Life Force dance, I really wanted to dance for the liberation of these children. And then I just was getting really wild in my movements, and eventually I just said, like, free the children! I just wanted to scream it out, and I could feel the Earth Mother saying, give me back my children. I want my children back. And it was really deep. It's like the Earth Mother. And I realized, yes, we're working with her. We need to work with the cosmic and Earth intelligence, because the Earth intelligence is now reflecting in her template into the core of the cosmic intelligence. And I know for some people that seems like, oh, wishy-washy, that's whatever. I don't know, because I don't see any proof of that. That's fine. It's not you who I'm talking to then, It's the people who do understand that. It's the call to the people unanimously, together, who are feeling this fire, who understand that when these points of reset happen, they also need to like gather momentum. Momentum is being gathered. And we're not all out on the fields or the battlefields, or we're doing this work physically, but we are, for this reason, called light teams, light families, volunteer souls, some of you star-seeded beings, light workers. It doesn't matter what sphere you belong to, what you're associated with yourself with. This is not the time for that. It's the time to start understanding how things work in the orchestration of life and doing your part. And when you do your part, you are a great one. You become the great one. Because doing our part on the behalf of the whole is like the greatest gift that the source creator can receive from us. And we're basically serving life this way. So it's like if enough of us can come together in this way, in any way or form, doesn't matter, right? We're going to do meditation in the next video, a little channeling with the gift of the Elohim Light family. But I also want to invite you to do your own attunement every day. I don't do daily meditations. I don't have a platform for that. Susan Ashley, who I recommended to you, she does that. If you want to join a specific meditation group, I would recommend her. She does it every day, 9 a.m. Europe time, right? Paris time, which is also our time here, I think, in Slovenia. So it's 9 a.m. every morning. She recorded one on her channel as well. So you can get all this information if you just type into YouTube, Fight for the Light, and Susan and Cassandra. You can get that if you want to join and you feel like my contribution is by showing up daily. That's what she started doing, and I really honor that. I'm doing it differently because everyone is guided differently. If you want to become a part of our team, you can always join my Patreon page. You can just get the activation. It's called Generating Currents of Life Force with Light Beings. It's on my page, Serapina Light, under downloads. You can just listen to the meditation we're going to do together with Elohim. Whatever way, doesn't matter. This is not like trying to vie for your attention. This is just telling you there's options. Maybe some of you already channeled your own way, how you're going to do this work. But this is a call to this understanding that life begins with life force. Life force then begins to, its journey of descent through levels of life in creation, through levels of densities. So we have to consider ourselves as humans, like these receptacles, and not just like doing this and just, doing the meditation in deep silence. This is no longer this spiritual retreat kind of meditation. This is like a working meditation. There's different kinds of meditation. This is a working meditation. This is like bringing light into through the principle of activity. That's why I call my meditations light activations. They're not meant to activate you in a specific way that you can't activate yourself. They're simply meant as engaging through selfless service and devoting to this highest principle of life that I call spirit life force. And this is not just about asking God, Creator, grant our wishes, save our planet, this and that. This is knowing that we are aspects of the Creator, and then if we want such a planet, we got to start creating it. And creation begins with life force. Intent, feeling and then bringing that in. So those of you who haven't done this work, you can still get on my page Life Force course training. It's just the basic, but it's very important. There's other works I was doing. There's also packages. But either way, you can start anywhere if you haven't, started. If you're someone who's just beginning, but either way, you still feel the call, the drive. There's different people now, there's people who've been doing this for years. There's people who are just now waking up to this and still feel the fire, but just don't know where to begin. It's just still all of us as one. But what they show me is we now need specifically an amount of people who would be able to hold the kind of light quotient, like they have this direct oversoul lineage light family connection. They can stream these impulses of light coming from the galactic core, and they can stream them through their bodies. I was doing this work for years actually, and hoping that other people would join. But I know this, sometimes we need a push to start doing the work. It is what it is sometimes with humans. And it's like when the ish hits the fan, right? Like collectively, right? So much is happening. It's really intense, I know. But it's like, this is it. I don't want to, again, over glamorize this and saying to certain people, like, you're the chosen ones. It's not about that. But specific beings chose themselves to be here at this time. It's not like they're special ones or chosen ones. But we chose ourselves. We knew we could do something very unique. We knew that we can have tremendous breakthroughs at this era of immense opportunity for life, to really become what the essence of life is and what it can be, and the miracle of life that can be demonstrated. Whether you call it 3D, 4D, 5D kind of reality, doesn't matter. It wants to pierce through all aspects of life and make itself known. And yes, there has been suppression of that. And yes, there has been tremendous darkness. But yes, overall has been a tremendous charge and constant distribution of this organic, constantly pulsating light. And it's coming through all of us who are now already in this alignment, pillars of light. It's coming through our cosmic rays. And again, I've been teaching that also for years, that they need to be anchored, not just like watched and yeah, it's happening. There's very much strong guidelines here for us. And the guidelines I was receiving, I shared all of them. I didn't keep any of them for just myself, because for me, that's what's happening is the most important part. It's life. It wants to become something new. It's time. But yes, it requires work, and this is what eventually leads us to our greatness. So if you're not like ever feeling like a heart-throbbing sensation when you feel like this fire, then it's just not for you. That's okay. There's people now who are just thinking what they will do to get through those days. They also have a purpose. Everyone does. I would never judge anyone. Every soul being is where it is and is chosen. The position is chosen. But I do always speak to those of you the most who have this sacred knowing within you and always had it. But now it's being amplified. Okay? So it's like imagining this circle of light now, and we're all in it. You can do that daily. Just sending a thought, like when you have a moment, it's just me going through this. No, you're not. The whole world is going through a lot. And when we find out about these things that are so dark, we need to remember, look at what certain soul aspects, look at what they're experiencing, look at these traumas. Look at what awaits these beings when this all comes out to the light of day. The rehabilitation aspects and that, it's like tremendous. We don't even know. It's that huge. But there's a lot that we can do just through this channeling, this like we need to create this space of the Christos, which like creates this unanimous field, and then allowing these generated pure currents of life force streaming directly from the heart of the Mother Father. And we are these receptacles, and we're channels for grace, and we're now bringing this. We're informing life. This is what you will become. This is what you are becoming. This is what we want. This is the state of liberation. This is what the goddess, because the goddess is the aspect of life, right? It's not about men or women. It's about the goddess, which means the principle of life in creation, the principle of nature. it's spirit in form. That's what the goddess is. So this is what her birth now is, and this is what it's about. So beyond all the political agendas, dark agendas, these agendas, there's still something bigger. And for me, this is the work that I came here to do and share about and invite those beings. Like, it's time, you know, everyone can be a leader in their own way. You can be a leader from the center of your house, your home, doesn't matter. It's here, right? It's the essence. So, yeah, let's talk about this more in the next video. We're going to do a little bit of the channel meditation. I hope that there's this flicker in you becoming more of a flame every day. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for being here, as always, with love, wisdom, and power. And great, great compassion for everything that's happening at this time. Thank you. Thank you.